Hey legends, welcome back to the Mason Cox Show. Now, plenty happening this week in sport. We've got the Ruck rules. I'm going to explain what the heck they are because I think there's a bit of confusion around that. Richmond's got a bit of injury trouble at the moment. There's celebrations all over sport. Bit too early, maybe a bit too much. And what happened in Brisbane over the weekend, it's all covered starting now. All right, without further ado, we will get into it. Welcome, Braden.
Oh, I'm fresh this morning. We got a morning record. We don't normally do morning records, but I'm up and about. If my voice is a bit raspberry, Queen was on the radio on the drive in, so I was belting that one out. Now, let's jump straight into our Clanger of the week.
Yes, one of the favourite segments.
Now, Warren Treadray, mate, ex-Port captain. You think he would be all for Port, supporting them, get around them. But no, came out during the week, said Ken Hinkley surely in an untenable position as coach of the Port Adelaide Football Club. Well, Kenny just shoved it right up him because he came out and got the win. It doesn't matter that it was right on the death. He got the win against Sydney in Sydney. That's a massive win. And Kenny's always just fighting for his life. I feel so rough for him. And it's never, normally people are coming for your head outside of the club, but Kenny's just batting them off left, right, and centre, inside the club, inside the four walls. Export this, export that, president this, president that. Get off his back. Bloke's just trying to coach your team. That's my clanger.
I'm a big fan of Ken now. Ken, he seems to just always fight back whenever people kind of try to put him down. He's the face of the Port Adelaide Football Club. He's been there for years. He's helped that team reach very much a successful era, I guess, somewhat. They haven't won the premiership, obviously, but I think they've been a team that's always looked at the calendar as someone you're not going to take lightly, that's for sure.
Yeah, I always feel it's weird. Like, externals are like, come on, Kenny, you can do it. And internals are like, come on, you got to win the flag, otherwise get out of here. It's so bizarre, but normally it's the other way around. But what's your clanger of the week?
I've actually got a little voice recording, Braden, a little voice recording from the weekend. So to preempt this, right, I was up at Brisbane at the game, and the AFL for some reason doesn't separate players and fans. Like, you have to go sit in the stands.
Like, so you're like a pleb.
Yeah, I'm general admission at this point, right? So you go in there, you sit there, anyone will sit next to you, right? And there's a few seats empty next to me, and I can almost guarantee you this guy did not have tickets to that seat. Just decided to measle on down there, sit next to me, and just chew my ear off for about 3/4 of this game. He left in the fourth quarter. So, but here's exactly what I had to deal with for 3/4. Now, hang in there because it is a little bit of a recording. Now, that was literally a very small snippet of a long time of hearing that in my ear. And it wasn't just me. It was everyone around me, too. And this man, oh, my gosh, would not he was after the umpires. Absolutely after it. He had smoked, I think, 3 packs of cigarettes during the game. It was just, he almost spilt a beer on me at one point because he was, like, just upset at some call an umpire had. It was a rough 3/4, not only for the Collingwood Football Club, but also me in the stands having to watch.
I would have loved to have seen you just match the energy. Just, what the hell, umpire? That's got him around the neck. Kick it long. Up the guts.
Up the guts. I don't think I'll ever be that kind of supporter, but that man, he had that many tattoos, that much missing teeth, and plenty of beers he drained throughout the whole game. And he probably enjoyed it. He probably had a great time. Everyone around him did not have such a great time with him there. I'll say that.
It doesn't sound like he knew much. Like, he knows the basics about what he's angry at, but like, Billy Frampton, what's he doing in the ruck?
It's like, this guy standing next to you actually is injured also, and that's why he's in the ruck. Like,
that's the guy. He's the ruckman. He's sitting in the stands.
Well, speaking of ruckman, we'll go to the next one. We had the Geelong-Hawthorn game of the weekend, and there was some controversy that came out of this one.
This was big, and I want to get your comments on it because you are a ruckman, but not only that, I've seen you do this exact thing so many times. So obviously Chris Scott comes out, defends his man, because this has happened twice to Geelong ruckmans, but this time it was Blitzarves going up to contest the ruck and gets kneed in, I guess, like the stomach, the rib like area, and goes down injured, and he gets a free kick, and they pay advantage and they go on. Anyway, Chris Scott gets asked to address it at the end of the game, and he says, just stop doing it. You're not allowed to do it. It shouldn't be part of the game. Just stop doing it. Mm. What are your thoughts on that?
I respect Chris. I respect his opinion, but
nothing comes good after that.
Nothing comes good. If you're in the center bounce and you get a knee to the rib and you still get your hand to the ball, play on. That's the way I've always been told. A lot of times as ruckman, it's almost, what can I get away with more than rather, I'm going to, do this and get the ball. It's like, okay, well, if I maybe just get a little bit earlier contact, right? So a lot of times you'll see a ball thrown in, and before the ball even actually leaves the umpire's hand from the boundary, the ruckman are already in contact, engaging within 2 meters. So there's a lot of just, okay, well, I'm going to put the pressure on you, umpire, to essentially make a call here. And if you don't, I'm going to keep doing this the rest of the game. And a lot of umpires just let it go. Like, I couldn't tell you last time I heard early contact from an umpire. I don't think I've ever heard that in my career. But there's things like even in center bounces where ruckmen step outside of the center circle before they go. Almost every single ruckman does it, but I've never seen a free kick from it. And there's little things like that. The umpires just let go because they want the game to play on. That's the way the AFL rules. But this whole knee into someone, like, you have to be able to find a way around it, right? So if you look at the vision, Mark actually just tries to look at him. He doesn't even look at the ball. He looks at the Hawthorn player and tries to go body him. And the Hawthorn player, probably thinking he's going to go and jump into him, puts his knee up, probably to protect him, but also try to match his energy coming towards him to offset it. And Mark's just copped one in the ribs. He didn't put his knee up to protect himself. He's not a ruckman. I love the guy, but he's not a ruckman. He's not tall enough to be a ruckman. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I remember I played him. He asked the umpire in the center bounce in the middle of a game if he could go inside the center circle.
Yeah.
Asked for ruling in a game before center bounce about halfway through the game. So, don't get me wrong. Big fan of Mark Big Slabs. Hey, big fan of the 46 over there at Geelong. But I think with Reece Stanley out, they're the same thing as us. We're trying to fill a role. And unfortunately, sometimes if you're not 100% sure where you can get away with and what you can't in the rock, you're going to be opened up for an injury. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like, there's a few things around that as well. Like if Mark was looking up, like going to contest the ball and he cops a knee, like maybe that's something different. But when you are in the ruck, what's your order that you go in? So you look at the player first, then the ball. You go the ball first always over the player?
It depends on who you're playing. So if Mark's coming across early like that, like I'm probably realizing that he's trying to take my space. So either I'm going to make him learn a lesson by sticking a knee into him. He's going to essentially be blocking me from being able to get to the ball and I look like I'm jumping. Or you try to essentially swim move him, try to get around him, get to the ball drop. Because Mark's not looking at where the ball is falling. Mark's looking straight at the player and he's trying to engage with him early and then he'll go find the ball after. And to me, that should be a free kick. But we allow that because he's sitting there not worried about the actual contest. He's trying to just engage with the player and then go find the ball later. Now, people like Toby Nankervis has been doing that for years. Like, he comes across hard with the knee, and a lot of other players do also. I think Toby's the best at it, to be honest. But a lot of players do it. No one's ever really had a problem with it until now, because there's a person who's not a true ruckman probably in that situation, who's a leader of their team they need in the team at the moment, and he's afraid that he gets injured. They're going to lose someone that's valuable in their lineup. And
there's a coach shedding light on it. Do you think it should have been a free kick in that instance to Blitzers? Because he got one.
I don't think it should have been. Because he got his hands to the ball. He actually got the hit out. Like, it was, I think it was Meek, I want to say, was in there with him. I want to say it was, he actually got the hit out. So Mark came across too early, trying to make contact. Meek said, okay, well, I'm just going to stick my knee up, protecting himself, because you got to think, if the ball falls back on your head, you put your knee up, because if someone's trying to jump on you to get the ball, that's the only way to really protect yourself if the ball's falling over your head, because umpires can't center bounce it. So, to me, if you sit there and say, oh, we're not allowed to put our knees up anymore, then, like, what's the point of the ruck contest? We might as well just have a ball up in the middle of it.
Like a jump ball in basketball.
Essentially, that's what it's going to turn into.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is out of this, if we see more free kicks paid, because you do see a lot of ruckmen running in with their knee up.
Yeah.
And
well, it's jumping with your knee. That's how it is to protect yourself. And that's why they wear shin guards.
Yeah.
Like, because you know that someone's going to be trying to literally injure you, which is what he was doing to Mark Bilsavs. And if they're still going for the ball and getting up, like, you might break a rib. Like, I've broken ribs, and I actually, whenever I had my spleen do, like, whenever that happened, I went in and got a scan. The guy goes, oh, do you know you've broken this rib before? And I said, no, I didn't realize it. Because, yeah, you've had at least a break or a crack or something in here.
Well, it was a crazy game.
Part of being a ruckman.
Yeah.
Hey, if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen.
That's good. I'll clip that one up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But it was a crazy game, and another crazy game from Jeremy Cameron.
Oh, Jezza.
Who I think he got 22 touches, kicked 7 goals, killed an umpire. He did it all out there. It was nuts. Like, it's going to be a weird one because I feel like he should be leading the Brownlow, but there is some merit in if your team's losing games, you probably shouldn't get the 3. Like, I feel like you should be maybe in the votes if you're like right up there.
Yeah.
But if you do a hell of a lot, but your team loses, I don't see that you should be getting the 3, but he's got to be.
If you're kicking 7 in a game, you best be getting 3.
Yeah.
7 goals in a game and you're not getting 3 votes. Like, I don't know who's getting better, like who's doing better than that. Maybe you've won by 100 points and whoever's in the midfield is just dominating, giving it to you. But Jeremy Cameron plays all over the ground. Like, this guy is the most multi-purpose athlete I feel like that's out there at the moment in the AFL. And if he's not leading the Brownlow race right now as one of the most valuable players in the league, I seriously have no idea who. And it just proves that it's a midfield award.
Yeah, but that's what I like. 100% winning probably the MVP, players vote, coaches award, like everything. It's just the Brownlow is just different. But there's no way he didn't get the votes yesterday because he's getting more goals than any forward and more touches than their midfield.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just nuts. And they would have been up shit creek in the first half if he had not have been playing. Were you about to push the panic button at about halftime?
After I looked at it, I was like, surely Geelong's just going to thump Hawthorn here, right? But Hawthorn, credit to them. They were up at halftime. And I was like, oh my gosh, this might be panic stations for Geelong. And then, of course, 2 quarters later, Geelong comes back and kicks about 120 points. So Geelong, we've talked about it, and a lot of people are kind of in this situation of when is panic buttons for Geelong. And I've always been a fan of them, so I've always kind of said, don't push panic buttons. They've had a few injuries, all this kind of stuff, right? I think now this might be the one spark that gives them the momentum to keep going forward. Yeah.
I mean, maybe they were a little delayed. Preseason, everyone's talking about it, which I don't really get because the one guy that said that he was having a pretty chill preseason's coming out and having 22 touches, kicking 7 fucking
Maybe the
goals.
key is just to smash beers left, right, and center in Macca's.
It's ridiculous. The thing that I hate about this is you get players to have a podcast, to have a voice, to have personality. All the media, all the fans are like, we want to have a voice, we want personality out of the players. And then they give you a little fucking breadcrumb and then you jump on them. Oh, what's that? You were relaxing over the off season. You got to do 3-6-5 play footy. Shut up.
Oh.
Shut up. Now, we go back to pressure because I want to get your opinion on like more on this Kenny Hinkley stuff. I feel like you went through it a bit with like Bucks. When Bucks was coaching, it was just non-stop pressure on Bucks. Every win was like you get a little release of the valve and you got to take a breath for a week and then the next week is like right on again. How hard is it not only for, like, I'm sure you would have seen it on the coach, but how much does it weigh on the playing group being like, we got to win every week to like do this for our coach or like to take the pressure off him?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we're all in it together, so whenever he cops it, like we all want to back him up. And for a long time, because of, I think not only that, he was obviously a head coach. He's got that huge, history with the club and everyone expects greatness from him because he was such a great player. It would probably put extra pressure on him just from the fan standpoint of what they expected. And as players, it's tough because like he's having to sit there and face up to the media every single week because he has media commitments as a coach. So he's having to face those questions every single week. Whereas players, we can just kind of say, okay, we don't want to face the media and we don't get asked those questions. But like as a coach, you can't just disappear. Like you have to be in front of the camera and answer those things. So it's tough to see that. And like, I think more than anything, whenever you do see a coach under pressure like that, it just makes you want to win that much more. So then you can see him be able to talk about something positive and not have to answer the questions about someone saying something negative or trying to try to catch him off in some way and try to get some kind of quote out of him. It was tough. Like, I've obviously been through the kind of Bucks era and stuff now into the Craig era, and it's interesting how different they probably treat the two people. Like Craig's not, he's not probably a media personality before he came into the Collingwood job, and obviously being a Collingwood coach, it's a massive, massive responsibility, and a lot of criticism comes with it. But it was weird how different the media probably treats those two people.
Yeah.
And now Bucks is in the media, so it's kind of, he's probably now on the other side seeing it from a different perspective with that. But
Did you see, just jumping in, did you see or feel, like physically feel that the pressure difference? Because like Bucks coming in had pressure. The changeover from like the Mick into Bucks was like messy. And then obviously Bucks being like this like the son of Collingwood, like this massive figure, had all this pressure on him from the jump. And then I felt like that just carried the whole way through. When Fly started the first time in a long time, it just felt like all the pressure was out the window and you could really have just a free run at it.
Yeah, well, Fly kind of started fresh because we had gotten rid of a lot of players. So, like, I think that was one thing where Mick, obviously, he was coming out of a successful little period there, and Nathan took over. And, yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's a weird one because I think one thing also to add on to this is Bucks never won a grand final. And I think people always wanted to see him at the ultimate success of winning a grand final. And they thought maybe this coaching was another opportunity, obviously, for him to be able to do that. So I think everyone's just put that pressure on him to be able to do that. And everyone, not in a bad way, everyone just wanted to see him be successful at the top of the top, the top echelon, and be able to get that finally, get that medal. And unfortunately, it never worked out. And I think people always just like, I guess like they just want to see it, a success to him, which is a positive and such a great thing. But they also put that pressure on him because they want to see that also added pressure to the whole situation. So, I think that was probably tough to deal with, I imagine, from his standpoint. I mean, like, he has been such a successful player. And, I think about, the things I've been able to experience in my lifetime, my footy career and stuff. And you always look back to other players that probably have never been able to experience that. And you have to be happy with the experiences you have had, but also be motivated to have better experiences going forward. And, I don't know. Maybe he comes back coaching at one point, maybe gets another chance at that. I'm not really sure. But Nathan's one of those people I always kind of, wish the best for. He's a person that's done so much for the sport, so much for the league. And he's one of those special talents that are kind of once in a generation. But he's now moved on to the media side of things. And that question will probably only be answered by him, whether or not he wants to come back.
And Ken Hinkley would have sighed a massive sigh of relief when he saw the ball dipping on the line because, geez, everyone was celebrating that. All the Sydney fans in the crowd, the Sydney players, the Port players dropped their head, and then there was an Easter miracle, and it felt like the ball just hit a brick wall because it was flying. It was like post high, and then all of a sudden it just dipped on the line. And Alir, who,
so good, he's named twice.
Ken Hinkley owes him a slap because he was stopping every ball coming in. He's playing on Buddy, the best goal kicker in the history since, way, way back. Like, yeah, he was just stopping everything. And of course, he was the one that stopped the last ball on the line. So, yeah, he would have been breathing a big sigh of relief.
It was a big kick. Like, it was 45 meters out, so it was a massive kick. I don't think people realize how far it actually was out. So he marked it about 45, which means he's kicking at least 50. It was straight. Like, you look at the ball, because the camera shot was perfect. It was right behind him. Like, the ball was going straight through the sticks. Everyone thought game over, right? It was all going to happen perfectly. And then you get the shot on the line, and it's actually like a meter short. So even if Lear didn't get to it, like, it would have touched someone, I'm sure, probably on the way through, because you would have had all of Port Adelaide's team on that line. Like, it'd be tough you really have to clear the line if you're going to do that at the siren. And Buddy, I think look at the vision, Buddy like tackled someone. He was just like trying to do his best to get it over the line. Credit to him. But yeah, it was just that meter short, and the celebration. Oh, I felt so bad for him. Oh.
Because he was laying on the ground with someone on top of him. He had no idea. So when he sat up and he said, "What happened?" and he mouthed it so clearly, like, you'd be so confused. And then people like, analyzing it to the death of like, oh well, like, this person celebrated too early, and like what like Buddy could have done this, and then that. It's like, come on, it was dropping a meter short, and there's 20 blokes on the line. Someone's going to touch it. Yeah. If it wasn't Alir, it would have been someone else. But yeah, it's pretty crazy, and just it's those tiny moments in a season that have like a massive ripple effect. So it's like, Ken Hinkley loses that, mass pressure on him. Now he wins, and there's like a little pressure release, and then Sydney, now the pressure's on Sydney because they lost at home. It's like, is that the first team that they're versed that are like any good? And like everyone's still trying to figure out what the hell's going on in the season.
The pressure's bullshit though. I mean, we're in round 4 going into round 5. Like there is still so much footy to play. People are already going, these are the favorites to win the flag, and this and that, and it's just, there's so much to play out. I think about whenever we were at round 5 last year, right? People would have gone, not making finals. This team's literally going to finish 17th. They've got no idea what they're doing. Back half of the year, win 11 straight, we're getting top 4. Like, there's so much that can change.
Yeah, and I feel like competition lends itself to that now. Like, the competition is so wild. Like, no one would have had Saints on top of the ladder. Plus, not only that,
Geelong literally at the beginning of this round on the bottom.
Yeah, and they're like, Saints are injury depleted, like, backs against the wall. Like, it would have been good if they were, clipping the bottom of the 8 or something preseason. But everything changes crazy. I think footy's in such a good spot. Something sad out of the game though, Paddy McCartan, another knockout for him. That's 10 concussions now in his career. And this one was obviously super innocuous. Like it it didn't really look like anything at all. His head kind of hit the ground, but it didn't look great afterwards. He struggled to get to his feet and got kind of helped from the ground. Like, what do you kind of see as the next steps moving forward in this situation? Because especially with the AFL going through so much and the concussion talk and CTE and head knocks and all that being like super front and center, like what happens from here?
Oh, it's a duty of care to the player more than anything. I'm sure Paddy would say, he's one of those players, I'll be right, and everything else. But it is a serious topic. Obviously, like the AFL is, now starting to take a bit of a harder stance on it, which thank God it took long enough. But yeah, it's one of those things now, like the tackle just looked, I wouldn't even known that would have happened until you got that vision of him walking off the ground and being quite dazed. And that's scary. That's scary to watch, like as someone that's, a colleague somewhat, someone from a different team. But to have that many concussions, you just have to wish the best for him. And really the hands are in the doctor's, his hands are in the doctor's hands. And hopefully Sydney has the resources to maybe get someone on board that's, a true doctor and someone who's really qualified in this area with CTE and everything else to maybe have a meeting with him about what's going on. But yeah, it's tough to see. It's tough to see as a player. It's tough to see as someone who, wishes other players well. We're all in the same situation, doing the same sport, and he's obviously got a mad love for football, as otherwise he wouldn't be playing it. So it's going to be interesting to see the way they handle it. Hopefully, like I said, they can get someone who's very qualified to help with the situation. And I hope the AFL, if Sydney doesn't have the resources, the AFL can jump in and say, we're willing to pay for this as a duty of care to our players.
Yeah, and I think there's got to be a process of this. Obviously, talking to Paddy, seeing where his head and heart is at, whether he wants to continue on. Then it'll go to Sydney and their duty of care. They'll do all the tests and everything to see if medically he's kind of okay to progress forward. And then it has to kind of progress to, an independent body or the AFL or something like that to kind of look after the player, maybe take it out of their hands, but then also look after the league because, if Paddy says, I want to go on and Sydney goes, okay, yeah, sure. And then he comes back in 10 years and he's not happy with the fact that he was allowed to play. There's so much that goes into it, but all I can say is the best to him and his family because Tom got knocked out in the same game. So we were talking last week about your parents looking at you and all your issues. Yeah. Imagine being the parents of the McCartans and saying it's that's tragic.
It's one of the hardest things I think as a player whenever you're told by a doctor you can't play. And you have to have full trust in the doctor. Obviously they're qualified and a lot more intelligent in the area than probably yourself. But I think about whenever I've had injuries and stuff over the years and a doctor says, no, you're not playing. And, you just have this want and this, drive to be successful and everything else. And whenever someone, I guess, takes that away from you for your own good. It's tough to like swallow. Like it is tough to swallow that fact. And it's just, but you got to know, I think at the end of it, like you have to sit there and have the mature look at it to say this is best for my long-term health.
People look at it and go like, well, obviously he's done. Like obviously just call it for your own good. But like some of these guys, footy's all they've ever known. Footy's their identity. Like it's different for every player, obviously, but like it's not an easy call to be just saying like, oh yeah, I'll just wrap up my career and my life right here, right now.
And try to find something else to do.
Yeah.
It's not easy. We'll move into another one, the Adelaide versus Freo game. Now, something happened in this, and we're going to talk about a few of these situations. Now, an umpire got a little bit of love. Got a little bit of love for all the wrong ways.
I was surprised. Have you ever been in trouble for touching an umpire?
I've had an umpire touch me. And I remember he like touched me on the arm. I was like, hey. This goes both ways now.
It was, so Jake Saligo kicks a goal, but it's one of those real contentious, like it's on the line, like was it touched, did it go through, kind of soccer kind of weird goals. Yeah. And he celebrates because he knows that he's kicked it. And it was almost just a reflex of like touching the umpire's arm and going like, you saw that, right? Like I kicked the goal. And then as soon as he did it, he was like, oh, I didn't mean to touch like,
as soon as he did it, he goes, there's $1,500 just flushed down the drain.
Yeah, and I reckon you start. Have you had any fines?
Yeah, not for touching an umpire, but I've had plenty of fines in my career.
I feel like
maybe a tribunal or two here or there.
For me, if I got a fine, I would instantly be thinking like, oh, I could have bought like a TV. Or I could have bought this, or I could have bought that. Like
a lot of people will sit there on that. Like if you do something in a game that's a bit questionable, like players will come to you and be like, "Oh, that's a fine. You're going to get fined. You're going to get suspension for like a week," and they try to play into your head of like you're going to get suspended or something like that. But I mean, it was quite like it wasn't malicious by any means. Don't get me wrong, but like the rules are the rules. If you touch an umpire, you get a fine. He would have kicked that goal, touched it, and gone shit.
Well, at least it's a goal. Like
they got the goal. It's it was. And they got the win. I think over the weekend. And
imagine if it was a $1,500 point. That would suck.
Well, how much is a goal worth nowadays? I don't know.
Hey, I would pay $1,500 for a goal because I've never kicked one.
Well, another one that we have to talk about. Jeremy Cameron hit-sticked an umpire this weekend. We haven't brushed on it yet.
Big weekend for the umps.
Absolutely demolished an umpire. Just swallowed him whole in celebration. And this was a bit different because he didn't really see him coming. And I think, honestly, it's on the umpire because he was turned around not looking at him, celebrating to the fans or wherever it was. And the umpire had all the vision of him coming at him full steam and just didn't get out of the way.
Yeah, I think the umpire had less awareness because, you can see Jez coming.
He's excited. Just kicked a big goal.
I reckon maybe the umpire just had all eyes on ball. He's like, I got to get this back to the center. Like that's where his job starts when Jez is finished.
Time to shine.
Yeah. So I don't know, but it was kind of like a weird one. Like he just engulfed this bloke because Jez would be 100 kegs.
Yeah.
So just engulfs him, and then this long, like drawn out hug from like
I think in Jeremy Cameron's mind, he goes, $1,500. How can I play this off? I want my money back. Cash converters.
Yeah, he's just like softly picking him up like a delicate flower. Like, you're all good, buddy. You're all good,
right? I didn't hurt you, did I? Oh, that's going to be even worse. That might be 5 if I actually hurt you.
Oh, now that you said that, I want to touch
I would have loved to see the umpires just go and just get into Jessica Cameron after that.
I tweeted out, I would love to see the umpires fly the flag. That's good. Steal my joke. Steal my gear. That's good. But yeah, come over. The guy off the bench runs off the bench in his tracksuit and just starts jumper punching Jez or something. But I want to talk about cash converters.
Yeah.
And all these A-grade players getting on these cash converter ads. What's that? That's
old Petrarca.
Oh, come on. You've got money. You're not going to cash converters to get a secondhand PlayStation. Get off it.
Cash converters, where they get all the stuff they get gifted, they go straight to cash converters to just get the money straight in their hand.
Yeah, exactly.
That's smart by them.
You get some free crap over your time. You could cash that in.
I haven't been to cash converters yet, though.
Yeah, they're giving you ideas. Now, I want to talk about this one because I couldn't imagine any world that we exist in, any, different space and time continuum on another planet or in a different vortex, or that you kick a torpedo on the run from 55 out like Jake Stringer did on the weekend, because that's ridiculous.
We'd have to be up by 140, and I would have had kicked 4, looking for the 5th maybe.
So Stringer cops a ton of heat this week. Obviously, coming back in preseason, not in the best nick, as he'd probably admit. Gets injured, starts late. Pretty much the same story. I'm putting that out there on Jake Stringer. And then as Jake Stringer does, he kicked like 6'10" or 6, whatever he kicked. He kicked a hell of a lot of points too, but he was just shooting from everywhere. And one of them included a torp on the run from 55. Now, are there team rules around this stuff? Like, if you did it, would you just be dropped the next week?
If it was me, yes. I definitely would be dropped.
Like, are there guys in Collingwood that you give a license to? Like, I feel like if a Braden Maynard or something was doing it, maybe.
Yeah. Like Braden Maynard's not going to get dropped for kicking a torp beyond 50. He might get a stern talking to, but that's about it.
I would hate to give Braden Maynard a stern talk. That would be scary in itself.
I would be happy to. No, I would. It'd be Braden Maynard's the handball receive from 50. He kicks a drop punt. That's his go-to.
Yeah, he could kick a drop punt from there. I guess that's the difference.
On the run, like he asks for it. Between him and the Dacos boys, you get plenty of lip whenever you get like the ball and mark right on 50.
Well, that's you, because you always
there's no chance I'm making the distance. So
super confident. There was for a lot of years there, you're like going back slowly from 50. It's like, he kicked it to the top of the square. Yeah, not having a shot. That's for sure.
Yep. But no, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 players that could maybe. I don't really think anyone on our team would do that, because we hope to be an unselfish team. That's kind of part of our ethics. But if there was someone to do it and get away with it, and they would have to kick it though. If they miss it, you're copping that much. But maybe Jordan DeGoey. He's a freak, and I feel like he was like getting tackled at the same time, just torped one from 60 and just goes through the sticks. And if it goes through, it's tough to really criticize him, because they actually, it worked. Is it probably what we're asking for? No. Like, I look back to the Jaden Stevenson torp from like 45, it would have been 55, 60. I remember sitting on the line thinking, fuck you. You're gonna just like look us off in the forward line. Everyone sprinted to the goal line and try to like lead up back to get this ball. You've waved us off and tried to torp one from 60, and it went through, to his credit. But in my mind, I'll be honest, big fuck off, mate.
So he's looked ahead, looking at his options, and he's
thought a torp from 60 was a better option than the 3 forwards leading up at him.
Out of the goal
is there anything more disrespectful than that? I don't know.
That's gold. I think Geordie probably in the same mold as a Jake Stringer, like one of those guys that can just break a game open. I think, I don't know, I could be wrong, but looking at him, Jeremy Howe, I reckon, has a real good torp in him though. Yeah. Probably torp technique. I reckon Jeremy Howe has a great torp in him.
He does. Probably not at the moment. He's got one arm. Love you, Jeremy. All the best for the recovery legend. But I think Geordie's probably the one that gets the license over anyone else at the club, I'd say.
Pendles?
Maybe. Pendles can't make 40.
But Pendles needs a torp from
He needs 40. A torp from about 40, 45. He's like me. We both struggle to make the distance. But no, I think Jordan's the one. Maybe Nick Dacos in a year. Maybe him. I don't know.
I just wanted to check in on this one. Round 4, sub rule. Like, are we happy with where that sits at the moment? It seems it's weird. It is cool that you can like influence a game, and it's way more tactical now as opposed to like just if it's an injury. Yeah. You can hold it off until the last quarter and pull the trigger on a player. But yeah, how do you see it? Or would you just go like a 5-man bench, or is it working?
I don't think it really matters 5-man bench or sub, because almost every game, right, you're going to have one player that's playing on it 100% or injured, or whoever it may be, and you're probably going to pull them off. Or maybe it's like a person that's played their first game, or like doesn't have the tank to be able to go through a full game, and you'll have to sub them anyway. So I don't really think there's too much of an issue with it. Like, I think it's quite, much of muchness at times, but I understand there's more tactical, like, choosing whenever it comes to a sub and when to deploy the sub and things like that, so maybe it adds a bit of entertainment and flair to the game, which I'm all for. But the 5-man on the bench, it's it's kind of muchness, I think, at the end of the day. Like you're essentially, if you get to the point where you're really using that fifth man and subbing that many people at once, you're probably just going to use a sub anyway at halftime. It's pretty similar.
Have you ever talked to the sub about it? Because I can't imagine you'd be the sub. Probably not.
I have once. I was a sub last year for Pendles whenever he did his finger. I want to say it was either a year or two ago against Adelaide or Port Adelaide at Marvel.
So they
played dog shit after that. I played for a half. I don't even think I got a touch. It was bad.
Mason on the bench is the sub.
That's a sub.
Interesting call.
Not a great tactical idea. No, it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
But as a sub, there's a lot that you have to do that like people don't realize, and it's like you got to, if you come on and then you got to like make sure you get like the running in your legs, and a lot of times you see players out there doing laps after the game and things like that, and it would be hard to get consistency in your game as well. If you like pull the trigger, you don't know when you're coming on. You might come on for a quarter, you might come on for 3 quarters. It would be a pretty weird spot to be in as a player.
Mentally, it's a bit of like a screw around, like, because like you said, you never know whenever you're on, so you're constantly trying to stay warm, ready to go. So if someone does, like I think a couple of weeks ago, Brody Marchak had done something to his finger and came off, and we had to deploy the sub right away, and that's not something that like you have time. He essentially just comes off, they go, yep, you're on, bang, see you later, like go. So you have to just be mentally ready to do that, and like you can imagine some of these people, it might be a sub for 2-3 weeks. So like that, just the mental like game of that can be frustrating. It's not the best position you want to be in, I'll be honest. And at halftime, you have to kind of go run around, catch, like quarter time, halftime, go, you see him warming up in the 50, like doing like leads, marks, all that kind of stuff. But you got to look at it glass half full. You're either not part of the team and you're playing the VFL that week and you're probably not getting your match bonus and stuff, or you're the sub for the week and the coach still has trust in you that you're at AFL level to be able to play, and you're the sub, hopefully getting a chance to come on and make a difference. Because chances are you're probably going to come on as a sub.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's many games that have been played where the sub hasn't been activated.
So do you still get match payments and it still goes to your game tally?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Don't mind that.
Because Oleg was a sub for his first game.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Now, another couple of subs coming out of the Richmond team.
Oh, jeez.
Lynch and the Knack. Now, 2 obvious big presences physically and, in the team lineup. Would you sigh a bit of a breath of relief if you were coming up against Richmond without those 2 in the team?
Yes. They're really good players, and they'll have to find a way to be able to replace them. I think right now that they're kind of in a similar position with us. Like, obviously, Nank is the ruckman for them. Their second ruck is out. Their third ruck is injured. Like, they're now looking to play Samson Ryan probably in the middle. Like a young kid who doesn't have a lot of experience play at that level playing ruck, now going to have to shoulder the whole load. So, well, not only that, but Talmadge, obviously one of the best players forwards in the league, that goes out. Now you got to shift things around to try to cover his role. It's going to be an interesting time for Richmond for this little patch until they're back. But yeah, I think they're obviously a big leadership at that team also, so that has to be covered also. I know Rewalt was in the box, so he's helping out with coaching, so maybe they'll do that. I'm not really too sure kind of how it all works, but yeah, Richmond's going to be a team that's going to have to try to get this next little patch so they can get some of their superstars back and hopefully get fighting fit. But it's an interesting time in the ruckman role. There's a lot of ruckman out at the moment, and there's a lot of people striving to be able to fill that role. That's for sure. A
lot of second ruckmans coming in, not knowing the rules, getting kneed in the guts, but We'll touch on that. Now to the Collingwood game. No ruck. Got these seconds coming in. It looked a bit messy. Now, like, what happened up there? Because first quarter, good. Third quarter, good. Fourth quarter, good. Second quarter, dog shit. They kicked 9, you kicked none.
Yeah.
And it kind of looked really disjointed. Like, balls were getting out the back. A lot of Brisbane players free. There was some confusion that saw, like, the ruck's not in the right spot. Like, what was happening up there?
Yeah, it's I think it's tough as a player who plays that position to see that, I guess, like, that position try to be filled, and then the person that's playing in it, like, hasn't had to play full ruck before. So I feel bad because it's like, he's just been thrust into this position. Like, this is not something he's worked towards per se, and I thought Dan and Ash played really well over the weekend. Like, they, as far as the ruck contest and stuff, they nullified really anything going too crazy. Like, I think Oscar had the chance to maybe, like, whenever we're going into it, I was thinking he was just going to be trying to punch everything forward and really get some territory off that, but he wasn't really able to. So it's a credit to him. But with anything, whenever you first try it, it's not going to be perfect. And I think over the weekend we realized that there was some confusion around setups and stuff and center bounces. There's a few free kicks and whatnot. And we tried to play Billy into the ruck at times and try to move other people out. And there was a bit of confusion around that. And it cost us probably a few goals and definitely territory in that sense. But I thought over the weekend for something that we just had to throw in last second and sort out, like I thought they did pretty well.
And it is weird because obviously, so the ruck doesn't just affect the ruck because then you got to start cherry picking from the forward and the defense, and those two are at the other end of the ground. So I don't know if you know that forward's at one end, defense at the other. But so it's really hard to communicate, I can imagine, between those guys and be like, you need to be in there, you need to be in there. It would throw the whole team structure into a bit of chaos.
Yeah, I think whenever you're a ruckman, so whenever Darce and I play, like we've both played ruck for a while and like we're pretty interchangeable in that role. Like it's not like, I think whenever Brody was playing, we tried to play Brody a high percentage in the ruck and we would get less percentage in there. But with Darcy and myself, it's really more kind of towards that 50-50 role. And like if I, like whenever I had the spleen thing happen, I remember that happened. I was like, Darcy, come fill my role just for a chunk because I'm nowhere near it. Or at the moment, I'm bleeding internally. So there's kind of those opportunities where you just like, it just flows and you just make it flow. But whenever like that's not an option or you're trying to figure out that synergy and what to do in certain circumstances and kind of, understanding the different players you're playing with, like it's tough to get that perfect, connection straight off the bat. And I think that's probably maybe something we struggled with on the weekend. But yeah, it's tough. Like it's tough to watch it and it's just like, you just want to be out there, just like fixing it, like you just want to be out there fixing it. But unfortunately that's not the circumstance. And we just had a bit of miscommunication, I think, in that second quarter. And then, Brisbane was able to kick quite a few goals and Charlie Cameron got on top of us. Are
you confident that you'll be able to fix those like communication issues, or have they been addressed, I guess, more importantly?
I think we'll sort it out this week. I think we'll have a lot better understanding of what works inside, and we'll get another week of kind of experience on the training track, being able to kind of really lock down what that person's going to do in that role and how we're going to, I guess, shift players around. Because I think whenever you put someone into that ruck position, you're also losing probably someone from the forward line. So like Dan McStay is one of our staple forwards. Now we have a hole in the forward line that was Dan McStay that now we have to fill. So now someone else might have to move positions and play a different position that they're not used to. So you got to think like that's just kind of the flow on effect of this happening. And over the weekend, I think that was definitely prevalent that you could see in the game.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably a lot easier to fill a gap in the forward line than it is in the back line. So when Frampton comes up to fill the ruck, is that why we were seeing so many kind of goals out the back and like spare Brisbane players? Is that where it fell down, or was it a separate issue?
I think a lot of times when we get scored on, it's out the back. And that's because we're a high pressure team. We come forward, we pressure the ball, we back in our heat on the ball. And then if they are able to get through that, and it's very rarely, I think, actually, as a team, teams can do that because it is such a high pressure game, then we take the risk of probably someone just sprinting away from us and just being totally out the back. And we back in the fact that the ball's not going to get to him because our pressure is so good at the coalface. So that's kind of probably, I think, where a lot of this stuff happens, where we kind of take the risk of maybe someone coming across as a third man to punch something or something along that line of getting more people to the contest, where maybe we lose one out the back and that's how you get an easy goal. And I'll be honest, I'll think about this. Charlie Cameron, I think he kicked six over the weekend. And the way it works in Brisbane is after someone kicks a goal, they have like a song, like their song, right? Charlie Cameron's goal celebration song. Take me home, country roads to a place I want, West Virginia. Like seriously, 6 times of the game. Love John Denver, don't get me wrong, but shit, I was about sick of that song by the time I left that joint.
The bloke sitting next to you singing along?
Oh, no, he was pissed. Fuming Collingwood fan.
But that's enough of you sitting in the stands singing Country Road. We need a bit of an injury update. Because I heard some whispers that you're ahead of time and you're ahead of schedule.
There's some wild rumors out there at the moment, Braden.
It's stupid rumors, but
people somehow know more about my internal organs than I do.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have you've been up on the Gold Coast, lounging it around by the poolside.
Love it. Just
getting some sun.
Spa treatment out at the beach.
Do you pay for anything? All right, that was a freebie, surely. You're on the Instagram.
Braden, I don't release the information of these services, okay?
So you're up there lounging around. So injury update? We better? We worse? Can we rush it along? Or
I feel better. I think for a long time I was in this because I had this essentially 2+ liters of blood in me that was pushing things around really weird, and the body just somehow absorbs this thing. I don't know. And I felt quite nauseous for a week and just was really kind of all over the place in that sense. But I feel normal now. And talking to the doc, the blood count's back to normal, which is good. So signs are in the right direction. I know you sent me a text saying that there was some miracle that I was playing this week or something along those lines. I can stomp that. That's not going to happen. But yeah, it's in the right direction. We'll get a scan later this week, I think, and get a better understanding of it. Got to go and get the CT scan, get the dye, put into the IV, all that kind of jazz. Great time at the old hospital. And get a better idea of timeframes and stuff, but it's still low key at the moment. Don't do much. Just let the body recover. Let the organ kind of somehow heal itself up. I don't know. The body's a miraculous thing. Oh, it's insane. Absolutely insane. So I'm going to let it do its thing. I'm going to kick back, try to help out where I can at the club. And that's about all I can do.
Go to Chemist Warehouse, get some vitamins. So your TikTok was actually the TikTok, you walking through Chemist Warehouse, hitting your head on the signs. That was actually good gear.
I thought it was pretty funny. Also, does anyone else know this? Chemist Warehouse is just a huge clearance sale. Everything is on sale. It is just lime green, just neon pink. Everything looks like I get a headache walking through the joint. I mean, how do you actually know what's on sale in that place?
Love Chemist Warehouse. How good are the bargains?
Chemist Warehouse, don't get me wrong, but their marketing is just everything must go.
Well, it's all relative because if their prices are cheap to everywhere else, everything's on sale. Now, I will say that there's one bloke on Twitter that's putting out there the miracles, and he's got the inside scoop on Mason's injury. I don't know how you could bloody know because he hasn't got his scans. He's laying on a fucking banana lounge up in the Gold Coast. So he's got the inside word. Geez. He must be your proctologist or something. He's up there. But we'll look ahead to the St Kilda game because they are flying.
Humming.
Top of the ladder. Big game coming up. Gather round over in Adelaide. Now, are you going to be there? You're not going to be there?
I don't think I'll be there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So watch this space. We'll see what we can do with that. We'll get some coverage going. But I don't know how they're kind of playing a similar game to you. You're both run and gun, so it should be exciting footy.
It'd be a really good game. I'm excited to see how this pans out. I think it'll be a high scoring game. So it'll be a lot of risky kicks, you say, to try to get some of the a goal on the other end. So it's going to be a very pressure game, very fast flowing game, a game that I think might be the best game to watch of the round, I might even say. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. I mean, obviously St Kilda is just choo-choo train, just rolling through teams at the moment. And we've had the loss in Brisbane last week, so we'll be having tried have something to prove, I guess. And it's a credit to St Kilda. They've been going really well. Ross Lyon has absolutely turned the kind of program around from the first 4 rounds so far. It's obviously a long season, but they're humming. They're absolutely humming. Top of the ladder at the moment. It'll be a challenge for us.
It's going to be challenging for Ross Lyon to get his Gatorade bottle through security at the airport to get over to the Adelaide. So I don't know if he'll be as jovial, as cheery as he's been in past weeks, but it should be a bloody good game. And I'm right there with you. Defense is dead. Who needs defenders? Defense sucks. We want goals. We want attacking footy. We want fast footy, and we're getting it this year. So it should be a bloody exciting game. And I'm happy to wrap things up there. I reckon nice tight pod, and we're not doing the entertainment pod this week.
I must say, there's a reason we've only got one pod coming out this week, and it is massive because we've got I will say, we have just recorded one of the biggest names in Australian athletics.
It's actually huge. That's a nice little mind game, I reckon, you put in there.
It is.
In athletics.
It was sport. In the Gold Coast, a little teaser there. I'll let you try to sort out who it might be.
I think if you think of the biggest name that you could possibly think in Australia in your head, it's bigger than that.
Oh, ain't that a teaser?
Anthony Albanese.
Albanese taking it easy. Oh, it's not Anthony Albanese. I will let you know that one. But
so we didn't do just one episode because you were in the Gold Coast on the Banana Lounge.
Well, we wanted to give everyone a happy Easter with the family. Didn't want to be in there too much, just family time's important. So we'll let them have that. It's one podcast this week, massive interview coming up. And we've also got some other interviews coming through. I will give a little teaser here. Some NHL boys coming on.
Yeah, big hits. We can talk big hits.
Big hits, big fights. And that's going to be good fun. That's going to be real good fun. We've got a really random one coming up too that we're recording this week too. And then lastly, we have an NBA superstar.
They're from everywhere. We're getting them from everywhere.
We're getting them every single direction. Mason Cox is not taking time off at the moment. He's just humming like St. Kilda, pumping the pod. Get around it, ladies and gentlemen. But that is it for this sports podcast. Look, subscribe because you don't want to miss this upcoming little month and a half. It's going to be absolutely insane. You don't want to miss the rest of the season, to be honest. So subscribe on all the platforms, legends. It is an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being part of the community. Seriously, y'all are absolute legends. I'll say it again. But really appreciate y'all supporting the podcast. Share it with friends, everything else. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.